Halloween is the second biggest holiday of the year here in America. A great time for woodworkers who want to make a profit to make decorations and sell them to people. I want to show you how to make some simple decorations out of nothing more than scrap wood. One of the really great things about this project is it's a wonderful way to use up scrap plywood. We always end up with little pieces of plywood and they're really not useful for a whole lot. Now, if you want to make yard-sized pieces, you need to make them bigger, but the ones I'm going to make here are porch size. And there is a distinct difference, okay? So we're going to start off with these little pieces of plywood I've had sitting around. And as you can see, I printed the patterns off of my computer, just finding clip art online. And all I've got to do is trace it onto the piece. Now, the nice thing though is that once I've got one made of a whatever it might be, then I can then use that as a template to cut out others rather than having to go through the same process every single time. Being able to use that one as a template speeds the process up, and I'll show you that here in just a couple minutes. One thing to keep in mind if you're intending to use something as a template is watch out for your inside corners. Inside corners don't work well with a router bit using a template, okay? You need curves that are at least a 1/4 inch. So there's an outline of a bat ready to cut out. I've got some other pieces here that I got to get ready to go. Pumpkins are one of the easiest things there is to create, and you don't need a pattern for them. And the reason I say that is if you've ever paid any attention to the pumpkins in the grocery store, they're all lopsided anyway. You can have tall, skinny ones, you can have short, fat ones, you can have some that are short and fat on one side and tall and skinny on the other side. So all you need to do is draw an oval or a circle, and however it comes out, it comes out. Now, once we've got our oval, the other thing we need is the stem, and that's also fairly easy. We essentially want to do a curved piece, and we're going to give it a little bit of a bump at the bottom and just a curve. And then we want to cut it across. And that's it. Here's our pumpkin. Now we need to draw a face on it, but that's not going to happen until after we paint it orange. I'm going to go ahead and cut these out on the bandsaw. It's just the easiest way I've got to work with. And I've gone ahead and put a 1/4 inch blade in here, which gives me a lot of ability to get some tight curves. I normally keep a 1/2 inch blade in here for the things I do, but 1/4 inch is better for this. If you don't have a bandsaw or scroll saw to do this with, you can do the exact same thing with a jigsaw. I worked with a jigsaw for years because I didn't have these larger saws. Now, I do recommend if you're going to do something small like this with a jigsaw that you find some way of clamping it down. It can be difficult and even dangerous to try and hold that piece with one hand while cutting it with the other. On bigger pieces, that's not a problem, but on something small, you're limited in the space for your hands. Now, the shoe of the saw is probably going to push your hand aside or at least run into your hand if you're trying to cut where your hand is. So pretty good chance you won't cut yourself. But again, it's difficult. So this I call my little bench on a bench, and all it is a little thing made out of 2x6s, and I've got some bench dog holes in it, which allows me to do various different types of clamping and set it here on my workbench. Now it will move around on the bench, okay? But the piece is held steady. So let's go ahead and cut. Now I can just reposition it, loosen my clamps here, reposition it, and just keep going. After you get done cutting your various pieces out, they're probably going to have some rough edges in places. I'm sure there are people out there that can cut with a bandsaw or a jigsaw and get a perfect cut. I'm not one of them. What I do is after I get done cutting them out, I go to the sanders and I'll use the belt sander for the exterior curves and a oscillating spindle sander for the interior curve. Now, if you don't have an oscillating spindle sander, you can do the same thing with a drum sander on a drill press. If you're going to be doing a bunch of these for sale, it really helps to be able to speed up the process. So one of the ways you can do that is using a router to cut out your pieces once you've made one good piece to be a template. Now, by good piece, I mean it's all nice and smooth and it's ready to go and it's exactly like you want it. But the other thing that's important is that you've got to watch out for your concave or your inside curves, okay? In this particular piece, none of my curves are smaller than the diameter of my bit here. But if I take this bat here, I'm in trouble because I come down into this point here and it's likewise on the bottom and I cannot get the bit all the way in there because I've got an inside corner. So that's important. So of course you need your piece you're going to be using for a template. You'll need the piece of wood that you're going to be cutting and you need a piece of sacrificial wood to put on your bench top. Now, maybe you've got a bench top that you can typically beat up and cut up. I try and avoid that. So that's why I'm using a sacrificial board here. I've gone through a number of sacrificial boards using them for various projects. So I'm going to take my board here and tape it down to the sacrificial board. Now some people, instead of using double-sided masking tape like this, will use blue painter's tape on both pieces and then a little bit of CA glue in between, and that works just as well. It's a matter of preference. I like working with the double-sided masking tape, probably mostly because I've used it for years. So I want to make sure I press this down good so it's well adhered or I'm going to be in trouble. Now I got to do the same thing with my template, attaching it to this. Okay, so now I'll put some more double-sided masking tape on the back of my template. I had to change rolls because I ran out in the other one. And I can't tear this roll, so I'm gonna have to cut it. Not an issue. And again, we want to press it down really good and make sure it's going to stay stuck. Okay. So I've got a template bit on my router here, and this is just a 1/2 inch deep and 1/2 inch wide straight bit with a top mount bearing. So I want to make absolutely sure that I've got enough of the bearing there that it'll ride against the side of my template, otherwise I'm going to tear my template up. And it's pretty easy, but I don't want to have too much sticking out at a time. I don't want to try and cut it all in one shot. I'm going to end up having some problems with it if I try and do that. So, I've cut about 1/8 of an inch deep. Now I'll go ahead and adjust my depth of cut here so I can go another 1/8 or so. I'd actually be better off with a larger base plate on my router, allowing me to give me better control, more surface area on the template. So about halfway through now, a couple more passes. I'm only going 1/8 of an inch deeper each pass. I don't want to mess it up. So we should now have 2 identical little ghosts. There's the original template, and there's the one I cut out, and I just barely went into my sacrificial board. Since these are intended to go outdoors, one of the most critical things about this whole process is making sure that they will survive outdoors. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean water, I mean rain. That's a serious problem when we're dealing with something like this. Now, a lot of people would just paint this and say, call it good, but really with any of these sheet goods, plywood, particle board, MDF, anything you're going to use, OSB, the edges are your really serious problem area, because the water tends to wick in the edges. All right, so how do we solve this problem? Well, it's actually really easy. All you need is some caulk. Now, if you try and do this with paint, it's possible, but it takes a lot of paint, because that paint is going to really wick into these end grain, and that's going to make it so you need to do a lot of coats of paint, okay? The other thing is that you're going to always have some areas where you've got some little holes. You know, one of the things about plywood is that there's always gaps in it. Okay, by using caulking, instead of just painting it, I'm able to fill all those holes. Now, can you fill those holes with wood putty? Yes. Wood putty is not as waterproof, however, as our caulking is. And so this is the best way I have found to protect the end grain of basically anything made with plywood or any other sheet goods. Now, it takes a little time to do it. As you can see, it's not difficult. Now, this particular piece of plywood is pretty good. Let me take a look at this piece here. You see we've got there's a knot hole here, okay? This is another problem we need to look at, and our caulking will help us here as well. Now, we could just paint that, but before we paint it, really it's a good idea to put some caulking in here. Now, I'm not gonna try and fill the whole thing. What I'm really trying to do is go around the edges. I don't want to leave those edges exposed. There's a crack right here as well. We'll put some caulking there. Again, by doing this, I'm trying to make sure there's no place the water can get into the wood, soak into the end grain of the wood. That's really what I'm after. It's not about being pretty. This is the backside anyway, who cares, right? But I want to make sure that it's protected. That's what this is all about. The one problem with putting the caulking around the edge of the piece of wood is that you tend to get a little caulking over the edge, so that's got to be cleaned up. You can do it with a chisel. I'm doing it with our ergonomic glue remover, just because I have it. It's a really simple way of doing it. This is actually for removing glue that's on when you're doing like an edge panel or edge glued panel, okay? But it works great for this as well. So that's about all it takes to get it off. Hit the other side here. Now, you could leave that on there, but it makes it a little neater for painting if you take it off. So now with these ghosts, I want to stand them up. And so what I'm going to do is attach them to a stand. This is just a piece of old fence post, 4x4 fence post that I've cut off. And I'm going to attach it right there with some glue and a couple nails, with the idea of it being a stand. The bats, I don't need to do that with. We'll put some holes in the back. Really depends on how things are going to be used. Anything that's to be stood up, you've got to give it some sort of a stand to hold it up. And if you're asking, why am I doing this with nails instead of with a pneumatic nailer? It's because my air hose went bad. So we'll spread a little glue on here. I'm using Type-On 2 because it is water resistant. It isn't actually waterproof, but it is water resistant. And when I paint this, of course, the ghost itself will be white. I'll paint this little visible part here black. There we go. So next step is for me to paint them all. So I've got my various pieces made, and I've got a base coat on them. The ghosts and the bats were easy because I always have black and white latex paint sitting around here for other things. The pumpkin was a little more tricky because I didn't have any orange paint. And if I had gone and gotten a quart of paint mixed to orange, it would have cost me about 25 bucks. I didn't want to do that. So what I did is I primed it with white tinted shellac, and then I spray painted it. Spray paint was about $6 for a good can of spray paint rather than 25 bucks. So it saved me some money. So now what I've got to do is the details, okay? I'm going to start off with a pumpkin here because it's a little more challenging. Now, there's two things I want to do here on this pumpkin. And as you notice, my pumpkin is a bit lopsided. Like I said before, they're always lopsided, so I've made it that way. So the first thing is I want to do is I want to make some curved lines on here, and I'm just using a brown Sharpie for this because I'm trying to give the impression without it being too bold, okay? And you know how pumpkins always got those ribs in it. And so that's all I'm going to do with that. And I'm going to switch over to my black Sharpie, and I'm going to outline the eyes and the mouth. So my eyes, I'm just going to do triangular eyes. And again, if they're not absolutely straight, that's fine. It's a pumpkin, okay? And then I'm going to do a happy smile on this. So I'm going to do a big happy smile. I'm going to go really deep with it, like that. And then I'm going to do the upper part. And I'm going to put one tooth right here. So that's going to get painted white. Now, all this is going to get painted in black, okay? And then I've also got to do a little painting on these others. So I've got my paints here. This is the same paints I was using. So this is some black latex, and I'm working with artist brushes, okay? So my ghosts need some eyes. So we're just going to paint some eyes on here. And I'm just going to paint an oval. And of course, fill it in. Again, if you're a little lopsided, it really doesn't hurt anything. And yes, I'm a little lopsided. So that's all it takes to do our friendly ghosts. And the bats are, gosh, even simpler, because really all we need is a dot of white paint for each of the eyes, because these aren't all that big. Now, one of the things you may want to do with this is to drill 2 holes in the back. If you're going to hang them on a wall, 2 holes allows you to put them at an angle with 2 little brad nails in. The other possibility is you could glue a dowel rod to the back and stick them into the ground. It really depends on how you want to use them. So I'm using an even smaller artist brush here because our eyes are going to be pretty small in this case. And that's it. That's all I need to do for the eyes on those.